Good morning here in Jerusalem and wherever you are, wherever it may be. Good evening, good afternoon, good night, good dawn, good everything. My name is Karen A. and I'm here in Jerusalem with the Afro-Euro Reco12 podcast. Reco12 brings together people who are recovering from addiction or are related to addicts or suffer from any addiction-related afflictions. We work the 12 steps as outlined in the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous. Those who share on these meetings are people who have found experience, strength, and hope, who are living one day at a time in the fourth dimension, and hopefully sharing that with others so that they too can have a new life worth living. If you want to check out our recordings, you could go to Reco12.com, and there you could find messages from Gamblers Anonymous, Cocaine Anonymous, Narcotics Anonymous, Alcoholics Anonymous, Overeaters Anonymous, Anorexics, Bulimics, Codependents, Al-Anons, Adult Children, Workaholics, and on and on and on. Emotions Anonymous. If you've got your own issue and addiction affliction, you could certainly add that to the list. And we're sure anyone who listens to these recordings will benefit tremendously. You might just save your own life and you might just save another. If you'd like to contribute a seventh tradition, you can go to Reco12.com/support, and we accept PayPal and Venmo. Without further ado, I will introduce my fellow Ross P. Ross P is going to share his own recovery journey and his own step 12. Ross, you have a half an hour to share, and then I'm going to ask you to take the questions posted in the chat, or people could pop in live. We're not super strict around here. And you'll answer those questions one by one. And then you will close us out with the prayer. I'll let you know ahead of time that I may have to drop off early. So in the case that happens, don't wait for me. Just go ahead, take all the questions, share your heart away, shine your light, and then pray us out. If it doesn't go to the whole hour, we're not super strict about that. You make a difference either way. Share your questions in the chat or think of them as we go. One last piece of business. If you would like to share on Reco12, I'm going to put my number in the chat, and you could go ahead and message me, or you could go to Reco12.com, upload a little speak pipe, or just email me or Justin or WhatsApp us, because we are always looking for more speakers, especially in this time when we are growing our fellow of intelligent agent spearhead. So with that, good morning, Ross. Bless you. Thank you.
Thank you, Karen. Intelligent spearheads. It's a good description of many. I'd just like to thank you firstly for inviting me. I think it's marvelous that you're in Jerusalem and I'm in Swansea, and we're both waking up in the morning and logging on to discuss this beautiful program of recovery. It's a beautiful thing. I'd just like to start with a prayer. God, today help me set aside everything I think I know about you, everything I think I know about myself, everything I think I know about others, and everything I think I know about my own recovery, so I may have an open mind and a new experience with all these things. Please help me see the truth. Amen. My name's Ross. I'm a grateful, recovered alcoholic and addict. My recovery date is the 8th of August, 2023. Celebrated 21 months of recovery yesterday, which is a miracle. It is an absolute miracle. It's a privilege to be of service. I have a big book sponsor. Didn't have a big book sponsor for many, many, many years, and surprisingly didn't get involved in the program of recovery. I was in the fellowship, but I wasn't I wasn't living the program, and I didn't get sober until I started living this program. I have a home group. I have a home group in 2 fellowships. So CA home group on a Friday down here in Swansea, which is a principals meeting. I have service at that meeting, and I have a home group on Wednesday, which is where I got sober in AA, which is the steps we took. At lunchtime meeting, again, I've got service at that meeting as well. And step 12 is, there's a principle attached to every step, and those are honesty, hope, surrender, courage, integrity, willingness, humility, love, forgiveness, discipline, awareness, and step 12, it's service. And for a long time, I think I thought that step 12 meant that I had to work with others, as in sponsoring people and taking people through the work. And it does say in the book on the first page, as a suggestion for 12, practical experience shows that nothing will so much ensure immunity from drinking as intensive work with other alcoholics. It works when other activities fail. This is our 12-step suggestion. Carry this message to other alcoholics. You can help where no one else can. You can secure their confidence when others fail. Remember, they are very ill. Life will take on new meaning to watch people recover, to see them help others, to watch loneliness vanish, to see a fellowship grow up about you, to have a host of friends. This is an experience you must not miss. We know you will not want to miss it. Frequent contact with newcomers and with each other is the bright spot of our lives. And so my journey with sponsorship, I see it as just a guide. I don't put myself on any pedestal. There's such a beautiful thing to be walking this walk with anybody through these pages, and but I've not yet managed to get anybody through to the 12th step. And there was a lot. There's a lot of lessons I've learned through sponsoring people, and a lot of things that I pick up. But that's not the only thing that keeps me sober. I think Bill Wilson, for the first six months of his recovery, was taking people through, and nobody was getting there. And he had a conversation with Lois, his wife, and said, nobody's getting sober. And Lois said to him, but you are. I'm willing to work with anybody. There's not a situation where I turned down the opportunity to work with another alcoholic. And that's because I know the solution is in this book, and I'm passionate about recovery because it saved my life, and I know the severity of the illness. It kills people, it kills people, and people are miserable. I was miserable. I overdosed many times. I really shouldn't still be here, but I am. God had a purpose for me, and I feel that I see that today. I understand a lot of what's happened in my life to be a stepping stone to get me to where I am today, which is a recovered alcoholic with knowledge of how to get there. I'm just going to read step 12 because for me, I think it's broken down into 3 parts. So it's having had a spiritual awakening as a result of these steps. We try to carry this message to alcoholics and to practice these principles in all our affairs. Step 1 is having had a spiritual awakening as a result of these steps. Not as a result of coming to a few meetings or as it didn't happen for me in the first 30 days of recovery. I was hanging on by my fingernails for the initial 2 months. I was coming off methadone, and I was rattling. I was off the wall, man. I was just frantic, completely unhinged, but I was going through the work and I wasn't picking up. And those first 30 days, they felt like 1,000 nights. But something was getting me through that. My last relapse wasn't as bad as many of them. I think it was just a few bottles of beer, but I was broken by those bottles of beer. The straw that breaks the camel's back. But I'm grateful for that brokenness now. It allowed something to enter me, and a willingness. There's a window of willingness, and it all lined up for me, just as it was supposed to. I met my sponsor. I fell into my home group. I was willing to put the action in. For 9 years, I was in and out of the rooms without picking up the big butt, without, kind of doing Ross's Anonymous, where I'd come and I'd drink your coffee and I'd share back, and I think my ego was just massive, and I'd fall into the meetings from the streets, but yeah, I still thought I knew it all. But I didn't have any concept of what this was. I could see it in other people. I could see people were well, and that had filled me with a little bit of hope. But it also filled me with resentment, because I thought I wanted what they had, but I just thought it wasn't going to work for me. I just didn't think it was ever going to work for me. And the truth is, it never did work for me. And the only reason it didn't is because I wasn't working it. And, the minute I started working it, and the minute I started putting the action and the effort in, and I was willing to go to any lengths. And I still am. I'm still willing to go to any lengths to keep addiction and alcoholism in a box, because that's where it is for me now. It's kind of in a box, in a drawer, tucked away, but it's still there. And I'm aware of that. But practicing these principles in all my affairs, it helps me to grow along spiritual lines. And when I'm on that track, then I'm a few steps ahead of my addiction. So that the mental defense is always there, so long as I'm continuing to work this program. But it's a life of reconstruction. There's a long road of reconstruction ahead, they say, don't they? So but you don't have to. Rome wasn't built in a day. And my life as a recovered alcoholic doesn't have to happen all today. It's a process, and but I'm gifted with tools, spiritual tools, to help me to live this life, free of alcohol, and away from alcoholism. So yeah, it's the spiritual awakening occurring as a result of these steps. So as an addict, I wanted 5 years sober when I was 5 days clean, but I'm so grateful that I don't have that. I'm so grateful that I get to experience this stuff, because it's only from my experience that I have a message to carry. Yeah, so into the next part, to carry this message to alcoholics. And I think that it came to me this morning, to carry a message. That's an action, isn't it? So it's like my words in a meeting, and it's all well and good, but what am I doing outside of the meeting? How am I living my life? Am I more kind? Am I more loving and tolerant of others? Am I doing step 10? Am I working on myself when things hit the fan? Because it's all well and good to when life is good, but when you've got family issues or that's when the actions of the program, and to be honest, that's when, so my family always were, what they used to be walking on eggshells, especially when anything sort of big had happened in the family. They'd be like, "Oh, don't tell Ross, he's gonna pick up again." And why wouldn't they think that? It's been a common been a common experience for them. You know, when life gets tough, I'd always bury my head and run towards drugs and alcohol for just to escape, you know, for oblivion. That was my goal with my drug use, was to just dismiss and remove myself from everything, because I couldn't handle feeling. I was very oversensitive to life. I still am, but I don't have to use a drink or drug to sort of suppress that anymore. I embrace it, and that's kind of, you know, that's the me I was always meant to be. I've always been quite a kind-hearted person, but in the world I came from, you know, the murky world of drug addiction and all that comes with it, kindness is not, you know, it's exploited, and it's greeted with you know, challenges. So I had to put a mask on and turn myself into something that I never was, in order to fulfill, in order to get what I was obsessing about, which was the drugs and the drink. You know, I'd become somebody I definitely wasn't in order to get that. So I was being pulled in the direction of something I never was. And I'm rambling a bit, so I'll get back to my notes. Sorry. Yeah. So the second part of step 12, and carrying the message. Like I said, I thought that was working with others, as in the sense of sponsoring. And don't get me wrong, that is an essential and beautiful part of this process, but it isn't just that for me. You know, I can carry this message in a number of ways, in how I show up for others, in the service I'm doing at meetings, in how I approach a newcomer at a meeting. You know, there's so much to it. It doesn't have to be put in a box. I don't think God took me out of the box of addiction to put me in this box of recovery. And you know, I just think there's far more to it than just sponsoring. But as it says in the book, nothing will so much ensure immunity from drinking as intensive work with other alcoholics. I've realized, and I've listened to many shares, and it does ring true to me as well, that nothing makes a good sponsor more than a willing sponsee. You know, and that is my experience. You know, when a sponsee is willing, when I was willing, you know, it's when I was willing to go through the work got done. And that honesty, open-mindedness, and willingness, it is the how of the program, isn't it? It's for me. And I've experienced it with sponsees as well, that when they are willing, we're going through the work. When that willingness sort of drops off and they stop turning up, or they start to rearrange appointments, then, you know, I've had to get out of the results business, because I've seen people come and go, and not come back. But I've seen people who I've got halfway through the work with come back and then get through it with another person, and that's okay as well. You know, sometimes I'm a stepping stone or an introduction into this book. And I'm okay to play that part. I'll play any role that God wants me to play. So long as my willingness is there to work with somebody who wants to get well, I'm happy to play that role. And the third step, the third part of how am I doing for time? Yeah, sorry.
You're good. You could keep going for another 8 minutes, or we could wrap your. If you feel like you'd rather take questions, we could start that at any time. Up to you.
No, just I don't know how long I've been speaking. So for 8 minutes, we can get done by then.
Okay, great.
Thanks. Yeah, so the third part of the step, to practice these principles in all our affairs. And I'll take you back to page 60 in the book, which is just, what I love about Bill is that he'll discuss a really difficult task that's coming up, but then he'll put an arm around his shoulder, and he often says, "Do not be discouraged." He says, or he'll say, "Let us reassure you," and that's something that I hadn't spotted until working through it with other people. Initially going through the work with my sponsor, I felt like it was a bit of a tick box exercise, and when I got to step 12, it would be like, okay, so where's my cake and the inauguration? Where's the crowds of people to come and sort of honor me into this? But it was just a simple conversation that went, now the work begins, and that's it. And that's because I've come from a hopeless state of mind, body, and spirit into this new, fresh phase of my life where I can be of service and I can be useful and my life does have purpose, and that's what makes it really exciting for me. Is that I wake up with a purpose, man. That's what most people out there are flipping looking for, man. Yeah. And my purpose is to help save lives. That's what it is. It's quite mad to think that that the 20 plus years of carnage and chaos and trauma and everything else could be transformed into this beautiful gift of support and it just blows me away. But I'll get back to what I was saying. So after the steps are read out on page 59, how it works, it says many of us exclaimed, "What an order! I can't go through with it." And I did. I think, many meetings I went to and I was listening to the steps. First of all, I didn't know what they were talking about. After about 4 years coming in, I kind of started to listen to what the steps were. But it was like, well, that's not for me. It just seems like it seems like an uphill task. But I can't go through with it. So I have said that. It's like Bill knows me, and I find that I identify with a lot of what he's written. Do not be discouraged. No one among us has been able to maintain anything like perfect adherence to these principles. We are not saints. The point is that we are willing to grow along spiritual lines. The principles we have set down are guides to progress. We claim spiritual progress rather than spiritual perfection. So I used to hear the phrase progress, not perfection. And I'd often use it as kind of a little loophole to still act and behave like a bit of an idiot. But no, it's spiritual progress rather than spiritual perfection. The word spiritual there is important to me, because it's the spiritual malady that needs fixing first, as you said in the book again previously. Fix yourself up spiritually, and then mental and physical will follow. And that is my experience with this stuff. But I like how Bill just says the principles we've set down here are guides to progress. That's it. That's it. Now all the principles that I read out, they're assets. I've been through this process through 4 and 5 where I've discovered what my defects are, and I'm asking God to remove them in 6 and 7. I don't remove them. I don't fight with them. I still can, but the more I do, it tends to get quite painful. So it comes back to then step 3 again. I made a decision at the start to turn my life and my thinking over to the care of God as I understand Him. And God as I understand Him, that the only thing that I've come to realize is that I will never quite understand him. I have a very limited understanding of what that is, and I'm absolutely fine with that. I just know that he cares for me, and he got me sober, and he will continue to help me get to where he wants me to be if I stay close to him. And I stay close to him by praying every morning, praying throughout the day, thanking him for the little things that happen, being awake to the blessings, being awake to what I'm asking in prayer, looking for the wisdom, looking for the things that, you know, I am awake. I am awake today, awake from the nightmare of addiction, and yeah. So sorry, 2 seconds. Yeah. So there's yeah, as I was saying, these principles are assets, aren't they? Like defective behavior when I came in, and which I wasn't aware of any. You know, my ego wouldn't let me see any defective behavior in how I was functioning. But thankfully, my sponsor had the you know, my sponsor was armed with the facts about the illness and himself and the experience he had with this stuff, and he pointed them out. And I was like, "Are you sure? Are you sure that's me?" But I see it all now. You know, I am aware of that. Again, awareness comes into it. It's being aware of those defects, and being aware of your defects initially doesn't make life any easier. It just makes you focus. You know, but it gives you work to do. You know, for me, and I, you know. And I was riddled with dishonesty and hopelessness, and continuing to battle and fight on. You know, I was quite cowardly, and you know, it was never show up for anything. I was full of ego, full of hate, vengeful, you know, resentful, ill-disciplined, and defiant. And I would only serve myself, or you know, or my drug dealer, and they're all the exact opposites in these. So in the principles, as I'll read them again: honesty, hope, surrender, courage, integrity, willingness, humility, love, forgiveness, discipline, awareness, and service. All great ways to live, man. All great ways to live. And when I'm living in those principles, I don't feel off. You know, I feel aligned with what God's will is for me. Whereas, you know, when I'm slipping back into defect, when I'm, you know, if I'm being dishonest, it just doesn't sit right with me today, you know. And that gut instinct, or the God instinct, as I call it, it just keeps me on beam, and then I speak about it. You know, like, that was tough for me to begin with. I didn't want to share anything with anyone. I thought I could do it all on my own, but the beautiful thing is I don't have to today. So to be of service, I like I said, I have a service position. We can be of service from the minute we come in. You know, even if it's as small as just washing up your own cup at the meeting, that's service. Putting a chair away, showing up early, setting up the meeting, you know, greeting people on the door, taking a newcomer's number. There's so much service to be done in these rooms, and I learned how to be of service in the rooms, and I can now be of service to those I love outside of the rooms. I couldn't dive straight into that because I didn't know what I was doing. I really didn't. And I was trying to show up for people as I thought they wanted me to. But I now show up as I believe God wants me to. You know, and that's not something I thought I'd ever say, but it's something that I'm proud to say today. And yeah, I'm gonna leave it there. I hope somebody got something out of that, and I'll hand it back to Karen. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ross. Thank you for your humility. Thank you for your 12 steps. Thank you for being so ready and willing. Will anyone like to come in and ask a question? Just unmute yourself. Go ahead and ask a question. you're shy to do that, you could post it in the chat, but why don't we just come right in? Let's ask Ross his recovery question. You know what? I'll open up with one, Ross. What was the minute of desperation? When did you hit your rock bottom? When did you know that, there's a turning point for those of us who sponsor, those of us who do service, where you there's no turning back, where you realize okay, I got to do this. There's no other way for me. This lifestyle, I have a recovery lifestyle, service lifestyle. When was that moment that you realized you needed to surrender your rock bottom?
Got questions about addiction, recovery, or just life in general? Let's noodle it out together. Grab your big book, a pen, a highlighter, and a notepad, and join Nikki M and me, Justin B, on Reco12 Noodle It Out with Nikki M. Each episode, we take real-life questions, ours, yours, and those from the recovery community, and dig deep into the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous to find real, practical solutions. So, if you're ready to do the work and apply the solution, tune in to Noodle It Out with Nikki M, streaming now on your favorite podcast platform.
I think rock bottom was my life for 10 years. There was no, I was living on the bottom. My sister committed suicide 10 years ago, and then my little sister was murdered 4 years later, and then drugs just weren't fixing at that. And that's when I went to rehab for the first time. And because usually I kind of revel in an event, in something like that, because I could blackmail people emotionally. I know it sounds terrible, but that's kind of how I operate. But it just wasn't. The drugs weren't working anymore. So that was the first experience I had of being completely sober. But that didn't last because I didn't go through the book. But my last.
Wait, I want to stop you here for the people on the line, because this is incredible. What you just said is incredible, Ross.
Okay.
He said one sister committed suicide and then another little sister died. Is that what you said?
Yeah, my sister got murdered then 4 years later.
Murdered.
Yeah.
What, was she involved in bad stuff?
Who?
Yeah, the sister who got murdered, was that because she was involved in bad things? It's just
No, just a.
And there are just three. And there are just three of you, yeah. Or you have more siblings?
I've got another sister who's now speaking to me, which she wasn't before. So.
Okay, so he got 2 out of 4 are dead. Any addict, even without such a family history, the big book tells us if they're not working their program, if they're not in recovery, it means insanity or death. So certainly according to the big book, and certainly according to the statistics in your family, you should have been good and gone a long time ago. Is that true, Ross P?
That's definitely true, yeah. I should not
good and gone. Say that again?
I definitely don't believe that there were many times where it could have been the last gasp for me, but it wasn't.
Yeah, and so you're a miracle, and so your higher power left you here for a reason. And for those of you guys who think like you got a worse story, or those of you who feel terminally unique, just like Ross said, we don't want his ego to get too big. So I'll help deflate it. My only baby brother also died 3 days out of rehab of an accidental overdose. So, don't be a show off. Just kidding. I'm just ribbing you, brother. But this is serious, people. This is serious. Like, we're walking miracles statistically that we made it in our families of origin with all of our trauma and all of the drama and addiction. Like, this is not a joke. We're here, and we were left here for a reason. So first of all, I just want to thank higher power for leaving Ross here to be a miracle and to help others. And Ross, there are a lot of people out there like us. Yeah, we'll take the humility, but you might just have been left here to save them, whether they did their step 4 or they didn't, whether they cracked open their big book or left it on the shelf or, you know.
And I also, you know, my mum, when I got sober and when my mum got a child back, you know, because I wasn't present, and I wasn't, you know, it was, so my mum has got a child back thanks to this program.
Anyone else want to come in here with a question?
Hi, this is Brandy. Thank you so much, Karen and Ross. I hope I'm saying your name correctly. I'm so sorry to hear about the painful experiences you had with the loss of your family members. When you feel the pain of it, how do you deal with it in terms of program? Like you're not turning to drugs and alcohol. Like when you have a very painful feeling or painful experience. I mean, I could ask a few questions, but that's how do you
That's a great
channel?
question. Brandy, let's take all your questions. Do them one at a time. This is an excellent question.
I pray, you know, I pray in tears, and I let myself just feel it, you know. I think this program is all about getting to know your feelings with God. God wants, you know, we're not robots. I'd feel more alien if I didn't feel anything regarding those kind of situations. But I cry over many things. I feel so much today, and I'm so grateful for that, because I was numb for so long, and I was intentionally numbing myself before, whereas now I'm intentionally taking myself to feelings. You know, with grief it was difficult because no, not so much difficult, but I had to go there intentionally so it didn't hit me, you know, kind of like a juggernaut when I was least expecting it. So I put on certain songs and pray and go to a spot that reminded me of both of them, and I'm connected to them now, thanks to that process. But any pain that comes my way, it's always good for me to get straight into prayer and see what's the purpose of that pain, because there will be a purpose for it. There will be a lesson, or there will be growth that's about to come, and I'm only aware of that thanks to God, because otherwise I wouldn't be able to see that today. My perception on life has completely changed. I hope that helped.
Yes, Ross, that really helped me. That's like so beautiful how to, as a person who's like a codependent, to go to God with your pain and pray. It's like really beautiful. I hope you have a lot of comfort. I have just general questions I can ask, but I think that Karen, if you have questions or if other people have questions, then I mean I do
Go
always like
ahead.
to know
Go
how you
ahead.
do
Just do them one at a
No,
time.
I
Just
just
make sure to ask.
yeah.
Do
No, I'm
another
saying
question.
I don't have
But
that. Then
oh,
maybe
you
we'll
don't
give
have
other
one.
people no, I do, but I'm saying it's just I would like to give you and other people a chance, but I'll just say I'm just wondering,
Go ahead.
you know, it's such a life of discipline, doing step 10s really as they come up, when resentment, fear, dishonesty, selfishness comes up. It seems to be it can come up a lot to do step 10s constantly. I just want to know more how you work your program with the like kind of the balance of life and program. How you do step 11, your morning, your night, sponsoring, and just everything, just like that whole like living life with program and really putting program first. It's just a lot.
Hey, Spearheads, if you're looking to dive deeper into the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous with people who live the solution, then you won't want to miss Reco12 Big Book Roundtable. Join David G., Nikki M., and me, the moderator Justin B., 3 recovered addicts from multiple fellowships, as we break down the big book line by line. In each 30-minute episode, we share our experience, strength, and hope in a real, raw, and practical roundtable discussion. So, if you are ready to learn and apply what you learn, tune in to Reco12 Big Book Roundtable on your favorite podcast platform.
Yeah, so in the morning before I even put my feet on the ground, I just say the short version of the Serenity Prayer in my head. I do a meditation with an app called Lectio, which kind of just walks you through a few bits and bobs. But I can it's called Lectio 365. That's what I use. There are many different ones to use, but it's continuously growing. Those are the ones that haven't. I mean, they've changed in the content of as I've gone through. But the short prayer before I put my feet on the ground, that hasn't changed in 21 months. It's something that I do every day, just because my head can be 100 miles ahead of me if I don't settle in straight away. By the time I get to the toilet, I've already stubbed my toe, and some the world can get on me very quickly, and I can be in a foul mood by the time I leave the house. And so I just need to center myself early on. But just taking it as it comes, a day at a time. With the step 11, there's a step recovery. This book available on Amazon. I don't know if you can see that. There's a 12-step recovery book, and I just put what's happened in the day. There are some questions that prompt an answer. So just ask for gratitude, things that I need to accept a little bit more. But that wasn't always a regular part. I didn't see the relevance in it for a long time until I started doing it consistently. And then it's like a bookend, isn't it? Bookends. So you've got all of that's happened in the day, prayer in the morning, inventory in the night. And then, there's a bit of a solid foundation around whatever else happens in the day. Step 10, as I said, about the feeling that I get in my stomach if I've said something to somebody, or I've acted a bit inappropriately, or whatever happens. At step 10, it's just, when I'm starting to feel that dis-ease in myself, I just say, take this from me. I think that's a really good prayer for me. Take this from me. And then speak to my sponsor. So I'll text my sponsor. And it seems like a lot of work, but it just creates a much more pleasant life in and around that. So if I can just do these, it's not a lot. It's not a lot. I don't always have to do step 10s if I'm living. I don't like doing step 10s, but I do when they have to be done. But it's not a lot of work to live life happy, joyous, and free. I don't know if I've covered everything you asked there, Bryn.
That's so great. Thank you.
Yeah, I want to ask a follow-up question on that. I also, identify as a codependent, and sometimes, I struggle with, I'll pray to God whether to share what I'm feeling or not. And sometimes I get confused, our big book tells us, is it helpful? So a lot of times I'll be like, oh, it isn't helpful. But then I end up being this, recovering addict who never says what they feel. And I'm like, well, is that recovered and healthy and normal, that I should be in relationships where I hear everybody else, but, I don't say how I feel. The big book tells us, our job is to be of maximum service. And sometimes I get confused, like, yesterday I had an incident. I wanted to tell someone that, I felt like, it's so self-pitying, but that I had helped her a lot and I'd gone to bat for her, and I asked her for one thing. I never asked her for anything. I asked her for one thing and she didn't get back to me, and I was sore about that. Now, yes, where is I at fault? Where is I to blame? I could have just followed up. It's like the big girl thing to do, but I told her, I said, hey, like, didn't get back to me. I felt like you blew me off. And then, of course, she told me off. And then it was fine. It all ended well. But I always am left kind of thinking, was that, messy and codependent, or was that healthy, Because we addicts are sensitive people. It takes a long time to get over this handicap. Like that, those communications where I'm hurt and I don't know how to express myself can get messy. Do you have any thoughts on that? Do you relate to that at all, Ross?
Yes, I do. I'm the thing with me is like I'm more happy talking about the little things to people than the really big things that I've got going on, because I think they're a bit heavy for other people, and I have to deal with this one on my own. I mean, that isn't my experience now, but there's always a little block in front of picking the phone up and speaking to somebody for some reason with me. I don't know why. But it does. That's one of the things that slowly come over to. Other things came quite easily to me, and I see some people who are really good at that part. They love just ringing and sharing. But I think we need to get out of. I need to get out of my head with my thinking. So when I'm having to look at, step 10. And in the book, it's just 4 things, isn't it? I think, if I can find it.
Selfish, dishonest, self-seeking. Resentful, fearful, selfish.
Yeah. So it says, this is not an overnight matter. It should continue for a lifetime. Continue to watch for selfishness, dishonesty, resentment, and fear when these crop up, because they will. It's life, isn't it? 1, we ask God at once to remove them. 2, we discuss them with somebody immediately. 3, make amends quickly if we found anyone. And then 4, step 12, we resolutely turn our thoughts to someone we can help. So I think it's about removing the getting out of my head by sharing the thought. And it's often not half as bad as I've created it to be, when I've apologized to many people along the way in a step 10 for what I've said and they've gone, what? I didn't even hear you. And I'm like, oh, okay. So I mean, I can make a mountain out of a molehill, but I've got to run it past somebody to make sure I'm not making a molehill out of a mountain. Do you know what I mean? If that makes sense. Because I can do both. I can create a huge issue out of something so small, but I can also make very little of something that's really big. So I get soundboard that off people, and that's what the fellowship's good for, isn't it? Soundboarding. And also my experience of helping another when they've called me. I'm always so privileged to take that call. There's never a time where I've gone, "Oh, you again," or anything like that. It's like, no, you've called me for help. So why would I remove that opportunity for someone else to help me? We're here to help each other, aren't we? So, yeah.
Thank you. Do we have any other questions? Ross, with your permission, I think I'm going to go ahead and ask you to share any final words, thoughts you have for the day, and then pray us out.
Yeah, no problem. I'm just going to go out with the Serenity Prayer, the long version, if that's okay. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I can't change, courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Living one day at a time, enjoying one moment at a time, accepting hardships as the pathway to peace, taking as he did this sinful world as it is not as I would have it, trusting that he will make all things right if I surrender to his will, so that I may be reasonably happy in this life and supremely happy with him forever and ever in the next. Amen.
Thank you very much. The recording will be available next Wednesday. We'll get that over to you. And it will be on the Reco12 website as well. Make sure to forward to your friends. We're looking for more of your fellows, more of your recovered friends to join and share their message in our time zone. Thank you, Ross, and thank you for everyone on the line. Have a great day.
Thank you. God bless you all.